and Pierce and
Koenig's camp.
Koenig was bags, and we were coming up here to
Yeah,
bags.
I don't.
Now wait a
Bags
minute.
rebuilt that. There was an old.
Yes.
I think there's one of them in there was torn.
did.
They tore it. I think it was Bags.
In fact, it was a sister to, was it a sister to Hicks? Ike Hicks' sister, I think, had something to do with that camp at one time. Could be, tore it down, rebuilt it, or something, no. Somebody's telling
What
me.
was the story about gauges you told us?
Oh, yes, it was
Right.
payment for,
The guy that got the
something
land?
about gauges in Flanders, the land
Oh.
went together and they.
Halls, wasn't it?
You said halls and gauges.
No, what was the name of this?
The guy that built the camp there for the sanitarium?
Yeah,
Partial?
Partial. Gage's father maneuvered to get that land, and as a deal, he got the lot next to it. So
For-
It
Say
sold
that
her
again?
plan.
What, and sold it?
No,
no,
Where
Gage.
Gage is. Well, now, did he have
Gage
something to
got
do
the
with
land
building
for
costs?
Partial.
Oh,
He maneuvered to get the land
from,
For
for
partial.
Partial,
oh.
and as
Or,
for the commission, he got that lot.
oh, he was a real estate agent or something?
I don't know,
Oh.
That must have
but
been,
he was kind of a wheeler dealer, I think.
That would have to been Harold Gage.
right,
yeah.
Harold's father?
no.
Or
it's
Harold.
Art's
Well,
father.
it might
Partial
have-
would have
Must
been.
have, might have been Harold's father.
Yeah, partial was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, now, and I
it
thought-
Probably was Harold's father,
Probably.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, because
It's not
Harold's
him.
father would have been
No,
more your age.
that's
Yeah.
Art.
Well,
This
Art's
is
more
Art.
our age.
Art's
Right.
father was
Would
Harold.
have been your
Right.
age. This has to have been another generation back.
I would assume
Could be.
so.
I've lost a lot of generations.
Well,
Now
now,
Mr.
what,
Flanders has been there for a long time, hasn't he?
Well, he was either there were Flanders was a graduate of Harvard Seminary. He was a Lutheran minister,
yes.
and was a friend of my grandfather. I don't know whether they were classmates or anything, but that camp was built many years ago, and the one next to it.
Pettit? You mean the one in the woods there?
Yeah, it wasn't.
It wasn't Pettit. at the time.
No, it was people who lived in Hartwick. He was a Lutheran minister too.
You know, it's amazing, I was just thinking, the number of
Ministers.
ministers
I was
built
thinking that
camps
too.
here.
We're talking
Yeah.
about a
The
lot of
Homestead
ministers.
camp, I think, was a minister, too.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's kind of
Well, and Reverend, who published the name? Price.
Yeah.
Well, you had
Right.
Harvard Seminary there, so
Close by.
How would these
Training.
ministers get money to buy a camp? Weren't they generally given a parsonage?
Well, it didn't cost anything then. See, this was one of the things. Like with my mother and father, they didn't have any money, but you could buy this for well, they said I think it was $750. I don't remember. I think it was $750 for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And
Who was Pettit? I mean, they seem to own the several pieces of property around here.
I don't know.
more stories.
Well, yeah, who built that place?
Sergeant, do you remember him?
Yours is
Was
old.
he-
She said the woman,
Clara?
no. Joyce Satterfield was the granddaughter of Jarvis Sargent. And he had one leg, an artificial leg, and he built that all himself. And she used to come up as a little kid and spend time up here while he was building it. And she said it was right around 1930. So 29, 30 time.
And
Well-
when did you come up? Were you here a lot?
Well, my aunt
Or you here?
bought it in 43. No.
Somebody by the name of Sergeant used to own the farm up, was it the Seth Martindale place? I guess, maybe, up at the end of the road, comes by, up by the farm. And there was, this Jarve, I think, may have been a relative of those. I don't think he lived there, but there was
She was telling me that her mother, who obviously at one time was a sergeant, lived across the road from you in that place. Didn't there used to be the telephone stand like
yeah,
the telephone?
that's where the telephone office
Right.
was.
Well, they lived in one section of that at one time when she was a little girl, which would have been in the 30s. But you know, he built it.
With one
And
leg.
essentially, it hasn't changed any. Was, you know, the picture they got over here is the same as, you know, what it looked like then and now.
It's always been to me a unique kind of a place because people come up and they pretty much stay in their camp. They're, you know, for any reason you want to talk to them, they're very friendly, but there's no big social activity up here. Now, in a lot of lakes up in Madison County, where there's a number of these lakes where they have, you know, like a country club where they have a party. But everybody around here has always been, to me, very friendly, but very keeping to themselves. And
The only thing I remember is Clara telling that all the kids used to gather out here and put on plays and play games and hide and seek.
Plays.
She said that the right kids used to come over here sometimes and they would whatever and have little skits. They'd come into camp. They'd plan it all out, come into camp and put it on for whoever was around. But
When did Wrights build theirs then?
oh, they had an old
When were
camp.
they here?
One of the greatest shocks I ever had. They had a real beat up old camp up there. And
that was Clyde? Or-
Clyde, yeah. And when that spring went bad, I think he still had that old camp. Well, I know he did because this was well after the war. I've got some close friends who were. He was a professor at Colgate, and I always thought that he ran this store in Oneonta, and that he was comfortable, but he didn't know. You know, that camp was real old, dumpy kind of a camp. And we're sitting out there one time on the porch, and Clyde went by, and Joe Turner said to me, you know, Colgate's put me an arm on him for about $4 million. So he is doing what? And then it was shortly after that he tore that old place down and rebuilt this camp he's got now. But I always thought he was you know.
It's one thing about him that he was not any different than any of the rest of the people he was around, and he worked in his store, and you know he guaranteed his stuff just like anybody else, and you know you never would have known it, and you never would have known it talking with his wife. They were.
No, they were, again, they were, as I say, they come up here, they were very friendly, but they didn't mingle, and nobody mingled, but if you needed anything or you wanted to talk to them.
I guess the kids
But
mingled.
$4 million?
And that's just one little gift.
Yes, yes.
So did those kids grow up here? Are those when they were little?
yeah.
What Clara's talking about?
Now,
I don't
what
ever
right
remember
kids does
that.
she know? I don't, what right kids
They're
does she
older.
mean?
They're older than
Chip and
Marilyn.
Brian.
Well,
and
Marilyn is older than Chip.
Marilyn's the oldest.
Yeah, I don't ever
And then there
remember.
was Chip, and then there was Brian.
And there was the Pierce girl. Was she your age?
Sylvia.
Yeah.
Was she older? Or?
She was younger.
Sylvia putting on a play.
I have to think that this was even longer. Not when those kids were really little.
Oh yeah.
Not
I'm sure.
when
Yeah,
we were here.
because
But I remember being really little when Sandy was
Mhm.
here, but I don't remember the right kids at all.
But she always talked about Chip and Brian.
Guys too.
hmm,
And Joe and Harriet, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe they were
yeah.
putting on plays
Right.
too.
yeah, well, there was Wrights and Hicks, and then Baggs.
Mhm.
They
Of course, they were
had-
younger.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were
well,
a
that's
whole
true.
bunch
They were-
younger.
They were,
Yeah, and, but
they,
then
they were kids in my
Right.
group.
Right, and then Sylvia Pierce and Sandy.
Did Sylvia didn't camp up here always, I never.
Sandy was older than our kids. Was she your age?
Sandy was my age, yeah. Sandy was our age.
I don't ever remember her as a child.
Sylvia?
No, yeah, Sylvia as a child, until I came back here, and was here in high school. That's when I remember, I don't ever remember her as a child here. Sandy Martin, I remember vividly.
Mhm.
I don't remember.
I don't know when Pierce's would have first gotten that camp, or who, did they build it, did we decide? Did we
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
I don't know whether
They were there as long as I remember, but that's,
Yeah.
That camp has been there a long time.
yeah.
I wonder if Carringtons would know.
Probably, because they'd have
They
the
could
deed.
look back on the deed and see. And,
You don't remember another name for people living there?
I guess I don't.
I don't. The Pierces were there from the time I can remember.
well, now, who did Ed buy this piece from? From your?
Oh, that was a war because Charlie Peck had agreed with my mother that if he was going to sell this, that he'd sell it to her.
This
Aha.
or next
So
door?
both
it
of
was
these
one
people,
lot.
Both of
all
these.
one. And Ed
Both of
sold
these.
it to my dad.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't
and
be here,
all
is
of
what
a
you're
sudden she
saying.
found out that it had been sold.
Ed or Charlie?
No.
What?
Peck
Charlie
owned
Peck.
this,
Right.
who had originally owned where Feldman's is.
On this house?
Owned
Well, the
the
land.
land.
Where
This
here?
lot, right, this one and
It was
the one
all
next door.
part of the same
Char-
tract.
And
It was just-
Ed.
Right. He owned the whole thing,
kinda
all the way over
swampy,
to Charlie
right?
Martin.
No.
And
no.
he had a deal with Spencer's mother,
Uh-huh.
that if he sold any of these to, any of the rest of this, that he would sell it to her. Well, then he didn't. He sold it to Charlie.
Right? Sold it to Charlie.
Or to Ed Martin.
Ed Martin.
Oh,
Ed
he
Martin.
sold both of them to Ed?
Right, the
Yeah.
whole thing. So this was all one.
It was all one.
Right.
Is that why Ed built
How-
so far away?
Well, I
I was a
can,
little scared.
I can
Oh,
remember
so then Ed sold it to you.
when, Ed asked me if I wanted to buy it, and I finally decided I would. And so we came up one night and measured off, and we were driving the iron pin over there, where the corner. And your mother came out.
Would have come all over you.
Well, she was. It wasn't hard to tell that she was displeased.
No, she was not.
So
I
how
didn't know anything about it. And,
He was ready for war.
Well, that went back to Charlie Peck, and again, back then my mother didn't know as much about law as I do, and so she thought she had his word, and that was all she needed. And the next thing she knows, it's gone.
Now, how did Charlie Peck know Ed?
I have any idea.
Oh, you don't know? I wonder how Ed got in on it.
Well, Charlie Peck, or I guess Charlie Peck worked in a lumber store down there, and probably they met.
Oh, probably,
He was in lumber.
Because, of course, Ed worked in the feed mill.
Well, way back when, he worked in the gas station there at the foot of Elm Street, and no longer there now, but and where else did he work? Ed Martin.
Didn't he work at carpentry?
Well, yes, not then. He worked for, that's probably where it was. He worked for Byard, who was the Spencer House, you know, was up where Bill Byard, he was a contractor. He built the penny store, the old penny store on the corner of Fort Avenue and so forth. And Ed worked for him, and that's probably where the contact was, because you said Peck. Yeah.
And when it was, now that it's all straightened around, but when your mother bought her place, did it include both lots?
No, it was, she bought first, I think it was 50-foot piece, and then she got another 15 feet. 65 feet all told. But this was all just empty land.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, right about where your camp is, that was where we kept things in a cooler that was buried in the ground.
That's right. It's just in back of the first section here, and oh yeah, I know where it is.
It was
right under the camp.
Tile buried in the ground.
Did you put it there?
No, I don't know who put it there, Pecker or somebody, but we used it because nobody.
It was.
Oh, you mean a cooler? Do you mean like a refrigerator?
No,
No,
just a pipe dug down into the ground. It's about that big around.
Yeah, one of these ceramic or drain tiles. You know, big one. And,
Just set down the ground.
Just
yeah,
sunk.
it's still there.
Is it?
And they,
Oh yeah, it's.
it was put there for the purpose of
Cooling.
Of cooling.
Yeah.
Of keeping stuff cool.
Wow.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
I don't think we ever used it.
I don't
Because
mind
we didn't. Well, we didn't. We used to come up here for picnics now and then, but you know that was it. And, well, I've always wondered what that was.
That's what it was. Cooler.
Imagine getting enlightened at this time.
I certainly would have rummaged around and see if I couldn't find it.
It saved you a lot of money on refrigeration.
It did keep things remarkably cool.
Huh.
You dropped it down in a can or something with a rope, or?
It wasn't that deep.
Oh.
It wasn't. It
wasn't.
You could reach down and get it.
Did you have to keep ice down in it?
Just put a
It
lid
just-
on it?
Because it was.
Well, you didn't keep. You know, it was.
Yeah.
It was not a refrigerator. It kept it cool.
Same as putting stuff down cellars. We always had to.
Oh, okay.
It
Then
was
you
a
said
different
there
world
was-
too, with a cellar full of cans and.
Yeah, my mother would make batches of root beer, 40 quarts, I guess, at a batch. And we'd put it down cellar, and boy, during haying season, it disappeared fast.
Now, at our farm, it was hard cider.
Well, we had a little of that too.
My grandfather would let the horses run just as fast as they wanted to, and he'd have this pitcher of hard cider. You know, every time he made a trip to the farm, he'd go down cellar, and by the end of the day, he was feeling better. Didn't spill any, and it was
You said that there was somebody on the other side of you that was going to have a Boy Scout camp? And then you got some property on the other side, or didn't? I don't remember whether you said you did or didn't.
I don't remember what his name was, but he lived in Staten Island. And he bought that 150 feet that, and he was a scout leader down there, and he was going to bring his scouts up. Well, this was shortly before the war, and he'd come up and he'd met my father and mother, and they were very friendly. They'd had him over, and got along fine with him, and never saw him again. And after the war, I thought, gee, that land is all empty over there. Maybe I'll try to buy it. And I called him down. I found out where he was at Staten Island. And when I was in New York one time, I gave him a call. And I had to hold the phone out here because he came all over me about my father cutting all the trees down on his property, and he wouldn't sell anything to us or anybody related to us in any way because of the damage that we had done. What had happened, there was a tree blown down, and my dad had that tree cut up, but they've never cut the tree on
What
that.
land was that?
That's the one on the other side of us that
Green?
the Green now owns. But I badly wanted to buy that. And then when these other people who did buy it, he listed it, when he listed it with a broker, he listed it with the understanding that under no circumstances was it to be sold to any one of our family.
Now, was that when
So
the sales
Greens bought it?
No, the sales bought it. Or was sales bought it before the Greens?
Sales, yeah.
'Cause I could-
We bought I bought a 50-foot chunk from Sales.
That's when I didn't have any money. I could have bought that from Sue.
I'd love to have gotten that. I didn't have any money
$10,000 or
either.
$15,000 seems like she wanted.
No, I think she wanted more than that, because when I bought that, I paid more than that for the 50 feet.
Well, I thought at the time it was an awful lot of money.
Probably was.
Everything's relative.
Right. Yeah, right.
Well, whoever thought back in the 30s that some of these camps up here would be listed at over 100,000.
100?
Right. Right. It's
Uh,
amazing.
So Sales had it, and then they sold it to Greens.
They sold
They
50
never
feet to
developed
us.
it, did they?
They never.
No.
She never did anything with it.
Oh, okay.
And she sold the other part to Greens.
I used to think that belonged to Betty, the fourth sister. But I don't think it ever did.
I don't think so
I
either.
don't think so. That used to
I
be our fantasy.
think there's a chunk that Nancy has that belonged to Betty.
Oh,
It's in her.
You don't think the store camp was ever part of that?
When I was talking with Nan Launt and Barb Laird, I think I understood them to say that was there when they remembered being up here. And that was not part of that breakup.
Incidentally, whatever happened to the Griswold camp?
Still there.
Still there and still,
Still Griswold, and they never seem to sell it, or
well, I don't know that they can. And is it,
tied up in the estate?
well, he,
I don't know.
Jim Griswold, and he died suddenly without a will, I guess. And I don't know what the score is, but
I don't know, but I would have thought the state would have.
his wife, he had just recently gotten married, but hadn't made any will, and I guess there's nobody to maybe to administer the estate. What happens in a case like that?
State?
The surrogate can appoint an administrator.
Are you talking many years ago, or
No, not
No.
recently, because he,
Since they,
Maybe 10.
since
Which
they
one is-
put that
which one
new
is
one on
Griswold?
it.
right next to
Next to
what was
Riddell's.
Punk, Bennett, Riddell's?
The one that's on that little point, they tore it down and rebuilt a new one.
Oh,
You
it's-
know where Dan Fritz? Right next to Dan Fritz.
Oh,
poured
yeah.
us.
I've never.
No,
Yeah,
the
he was a school
Griswold.
teacher, wasn't he?
No, an insurance,
Griswold?
wasn't he?
I've forgotten. I used the only I knew him. I used to see him down to the club, and
His son still
yes.
comes and looks at it,
oh, he does. Oh,
apparently.
There must
and
somebody-
the son is,
Somebody's got to be
Connor's
paying the
daughter.
taxes.
his wife.
Yeah, Connor's daughter.
He's married to guys?
the Jim Griswold that built the camp or whatever,
Mhm.
his son is married to Connors. Am I
See, he used to
understanding?
be, his son was, he worked at the country club,
Something like that, and I think they live a ways
Little bit.
away.
yeah.
But when he's here, I think he looks at it, but he doesn't seem to want to do anything about it.
Must
But somebody has to be paying the taxes. I mean, somebody has to be doing
sold at a
something.
tax auction.
Because they came in there and took the old place down and
Yeah.
put this new place in there, which looked like it would be a real nice little camp. And
Well,
nobody
Somebody
else
was-
stayed in it.
Somebody
guess-
was sick.
He got,
He
He
was
did
sick.
it, or somebody did it for the person who was sick, and then they died.
well, he
I know
did
he
it.
wants the memories.
I understood that he'd just gotten, or was gonna get married, and so he told his wife-to-be, she designed it and built it just the way she wanted it, and then he died so suddenly.
And did they not marry then?
I think they had just gotten married.
Then it must be in
Very
her.
briefly.
But then didn't she get sick soon thereafter?
I think so. She was a daughter of a lawyer in Oleana. Lived on East Street, I think.
Because I thought
I think she's since died,
yeah, I think so too, so.
yeah.
I think that's why the son comes to look at it, but doesn't seem to do anything with it.
Does he go in?
Title may be
I can picture you behind
be
the
all
big
screwed up.
curtain.
That could be all screwed up.
Yeah,
Can't even see it. No, it isn't us, it's,
Celia's been around us too long. We don't even bother with the curtain. Get the old binoculars.
Here.
Who was telling me they were in there?
Thank you.
I don't know. I don't know about that one. That's always been a puzzle. Just like the hearts. I would wish somebody had a picture of that heart camp.
Which
That's
is the heart camp?
the one next to us, that's now Riddell's.
It's just too hard.
The one with the grouchy old man. I
Oh.
would love to see a picture of that camp and the guy. Yeah,
My gosh.
isn't that wonderful?
Have you been doing this?
Oh, I
Sure
do.
she's been.
I
Nice.
spent a lot of time on these.
I know I wanted to do it. Go round and round and round.
Is the casino still going as vigorously?
Wow.
I understand they're building a motel or something.
Building a hotel. They had a bingo parlor down in south of Oneida, and they built a gorgeous place for that now up in the. That's a miracle and nothing flat
Where is the bingo hall?
up in the gambling casino.
Oh, I see, they've moved it. They used to have it down south, I see.
That was where, see, we have a big problem up in Madison County, or in the Oneida area, because the Indians technically own all that land up there. The Oneida's Indian tribe at the Revolution were the only Iroquois fought with the revolutionaries. All the rest of them fought with the English. So the Oneidas, as an ally, owned all that land where we are, and a big chunk, mostly from the river down to Binghamton. And it's in litigation, has been there for about 50 years, it'll be there for another 50 years. and the Supreme Court ruled that it was theirs.
House used to be
It belongs to the
over.
Indians.
You're talking about the original?
You have to pay,
No, there, it's still up in the air, and what'll happen with it sooner or later, the state of New York will pay off the Indians. But they live just south of Oneida, in a chunk of land down there, and it was really
My mother said
a sad.
concessions.
They were poverty-stricken, mostly alcoholic.
Little sister.
See, I was told they
And all of a sudden, they are multimillionaires.
yeah.
Mary said it was moved. It used to be the concession stand.
Same thing happened over in Connecticut.
could be.
You don't know.
Right.
You know, shows was the concession
Well, now,
stand.
I understand, or I thought I read in the paper that Salamanca, the city of
I think they're working on one out there, too.
I think they have to pay nominal land rental. fee.
Right.
Not very much, but,
This may happen to us someday.
something.
I'm just
Well,
reading a book about the Trail of Tears. And when you read about what we did to the Indians in
Cherokee.
Yeah,
And-
in relation to that, it's
It's
like,
all over the country.
now they're having their turn, I guess. Different tribe, but,
Right next to us. They go,
Well,
and so we gave it to the Presbyterian, and they moved it down.
the Indians have been painted as
Up the hill, ran air.
cruel and vicious, and but
and
they weren't.
right, they really were. They knew more about land and how to use it and preserve it, and
Yeah.
they were,
And they were merely
Back when Mary's talking.
trying to protect their home, as anybody would do.
Well, if you notice up in Cooperstown, there's a,
That little playhouse was moved.
at the end of the lake where the river starts,
Yeah.
Playhouse.
after the
That was
Revolution,
down, and that was,
they built a dam up there,
Ben's Playhouse.
and the
And there was a boat
American troops
that came out that was
went
half a mile
down the
long.
river in boats and wiped out pretty much the rest of the
I don't
Iroquois.
remember, she said.
That's what that dam was there for, was for,
They raised the level of rate so
you know, so if they could get down,
General Clinton.
and they did a number on
Sorry.
all the rest of it, but unfortunately for me, the Oneidas were not part of that.
So they took over.
oh dear.
In all the abstracts and all your,
Goldie Wilder
up there now, or
lived.
whenever there's an opinion letter written by a lawyer, at the bottom,
Do you know where
there's
my
this thing
grandparents lived?
about Indians.
On Center Street. Well, they lived on
You have
Center
clear
Street.
title, except someday the Indians may take it away from you.
Goldie's wife.
Oh, my
And they were
word.
always friends. And Mary
Yeah.
was the same age, or maybe a few
Well,
months
it's
older
probably
than my mother's brother.
raised havoc with the real estate
So
market,
they're all
hasn't it?
together.
Oh, it's a boom up there. No, nobody's really worried about this. This has been going on
For years.
for 30 or 40 years, and it'll go on for another.
They've sold it to Sutters. in,
I see.
probably
So they're,
53, before we
they're,
moved back here
well, of course,
in high school.
they're gonna have a whole new community over there where the casino is, and, how much land, well, they must have a
My
lot of,
grandparents.
Well, everything they buy, and this is driving all the, you know, they're, right now, the Oneidas tribe locally are not terribly worried about getting any more land because they can buy whatever they want to buy. They've got multi-millions of dollars that they can throw around. But the minute they buy it, it becomes
But I knew,
Indian land,
but,
So there's
no longer taxable.
I suppose Susan.
So,
when I was born, we were
The town of Verona, where that casino is,
So,
has this magnificent thing on there. All the problems that go with all the people that are coming in and out of there, and not a dime in taxes.
house was part of what must have
Lord.
happened. And so I
Ay,
knew Susan over there. But,
Hmm.
yeah,
Well,
well,
have we?
Yeah, I think you did a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you very much.
boy, you don't
That's
long
terrific.
enough.
Oh,